Tonight, on the brink of war. Palestinian militants aim rockets at Jerusalem as Israel calls up thousands of reserves and masses troops on the Gaza border. Alan Pizzi reports from Tel Aviv. In Texas, a parade to honor veterans becomes a scene of tragedy.
It was just something I've never seen, something I don't ever want to see again.
Anna Werner is at the deadly train crash. Could Congress and the president be close to a deal to avoid the fiscal cliff looming at the end of the year? Nancy Cordes is at the White House. And Steve Hartman's on the road. For this family, it's 2 decades on the gridiron and never a timeout.
How many boys do you have? Do you know?
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Scott is off tonight. I'm Anthony Mason. After another day of airstrikes and rocket attacks, Israel and Hamas are inching closer to a ground war in Gaza. The Palestinian militant group has fired more than 450 rockets at Israel this week. 3 Israelis have been killed in the attacks. In response, the Israeli Air Force has pounded Hamas targets, killing at least 28 Palestinians, including some children. Air raid sirens sounded today in major cities, including Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Alan Pizzi is there.
Nearly 100 rockets fired from Gaza made it into Israel today, sending people running for shelters. And for the first time ever, a missile reached the edge of Jerusalem. The growing threat from Hamas is pushing Israel closer to a ground war. Israeli troops and armor are massing along the border with Gaza. 16,000 reservists have already been called up, and the cabinet approved plans that could raise that to 75,000. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that his government was prepared to expand its operation into Gaza. That carries the risk of more casualties on both sides. At least 28 Palestinians have been killed so far, half of them civilians, including several women and as many as 6 children. The Israelis insist they are only targeting Hamas military positions, but Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas on earth, so civilians are inevitable victims. Today, Egypt's new Islamist government sent Prime Minister Hisham Kandil to Gaza to show its support for Hamas. He toured a hospital and was shown what Hamas said were victims of Israeli airstrikes. Kandil said he had come to plead for peace, but his rhetoric supported Hamas. He called the violence a tragedy and said Egypt will not spare any effort to stop what he termed this aggression. In Israel, a funeral today was interrupted by a warning siren that another missile was on its way, and there is a growing fear that Hamas has vastly improved its arsenal. Among the targets the Israeli military said it destroyed today was a Hamas factory for building drones. They also carried out 2 more targeted assassinations. The Israeli Defense Force spokesman used his Twitter account tonight to announce that what he called a senior Hamas company commander and a chief missile operator had been killed.
Alan Pizzi in Tel Aviv. Thanks, Alan. Federal accident investigators are at the scene of a tragic crash in Midland, Texas. It happened last evening at a parade honoring war heroes. At least 4 veterans were killed. 16 other people were hurt, some critically. Anna Werner reports witnesses describe a scene of grief and shock.
The annual parade for wounded veterans was on its way to a dinner banquet when it was struck by the train. Joe Cobarobio saw it all happen.
It's something I've never seen, something I've never heard, and I wish I never hear that again.
Cobarobio was filming at the moment of impact. Investigators are now reviewing his footage.
One of the veterans was actually under the train. I did not know whether to run up to him, grab him, pull him out from under the train because the train was still moving fairly quickly, you know.
The flatbed carrying the 26 people was the last float in the parade. The truck was traveling behind another group of veterans and was trailed by a police car. As the truck went across the tracks, witnesses tell us that the train signal sounded and the guardrails started to come down on top of the flatbed. Some witnesses say the driver started to cross the tracks before the truck in front had moved away. If true, the driver may have violated federal safety regulations. The National Transportation Safety Board is interviewing eyewitnesses, including the driver of the semi. Mark Rosekind is with the NTSB.
We'll be looking at the driver's qualifications, his training, his medical status, and do a 72-hour review of his sleep-work history.
It is the strength we deeply need.
This morning, this tight-knit community held a vigil to remember the 4 who died. 47-year-old Army Sergeant Major Lawrence Boyvin was awarded a Silver Star and a Purple Heart for injuries during a 2004 tour in Iraq. 37-year-old Marine Gary Stouffer was deployed multiple times to Afghanistan, where he sustained a traumatic brain injury. He was 3 years shy of retirement. 43-year-old Sergeant Major William Lubbers died at the hospital. In 2003, he sustained a gunshot wound when his team was ambushed in Afghanistan. Sergeant Joshua Michael was the youngest, age 34. He pushed his wife off the truck, saving her life. Midland Mayor Wes Perry.
The streets were lined with families. I was there waving flags, and just the incredible change of emotion is devastating.
Investigators have a lot to look at here yet, but here are a couple of things they do know, Anthony, that on this 70-mile-per-hour stretch of track, that the train was going 62 miles per hour, and there was emergency braking. Investigators have yet to determine at what point those brakes were applied.
Anna Werner. Thanks, Anna. At the White House today, President Obama met with congressional leaders to try to work out a deal to avoid the so-called fiscal cliff. That's the combination of severe budget cuts and tax hikes that will go into effect in January if there's no agreement on the budget. Nancy Cordes is at the White House, and Nancy, it appears that everyone's at least a bit more optimistic now, right?
That's right, Anthony. Today's meeting was just the first step, and the outlines of a deal are still far from clear. But in the wake of last week's election, leaders from both sides appeared more eager to compromise with one another than they have perhaps in years.
I think we're all aware that we have some urgent business to do.
The president, vice president, and the 4 top congressional leaders all insisted today they are willing to put their own sacred cows on the line to get a deal and to calm jittery financial markets.
To show our seriousness, we've put revenue on the table, as long as it's accompanied by significant spending cuts.
In the meeting, House Speaker John Boehner proposed that leaders establish a framework in the next 6 weeks for wide-scale reform of the tax code, Medicare, and Social Security in 2013. The goal would be to set specific targets now for savings from those reforms. That would negate the need for steep spending cuts Congress called for last year that are set to kick in on January 1st, the same day the Bush tax cuts are set to expire. That damaging combo has come to be known as the fiscal cliff.
Take some deep breaths.
And while Democrats often balk at any mention of entitlement reform, today House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi signaled a new openness.
Do we want to have savings from everything that we do? Certainly. So we need revenue, we need savings, we need growth.
Leader Pelosi said there appeared to be interest among the leaders in a big deal, about $4 trillion worth of deficit reductions along the lines of the grand bargain that fell apart between the president and Speaker Boehner last year, Anthony.
Nancy, there are just 46 days till the new year. What can they really hope to accomplish in that time?
Well, I think what they're hoping for is an outline, a roadmap, if you will, that they can take back to both sides for more sensible spending cuts than the across-the-board cuts that are set to go into effect in those 46 days.
All right, Nancy Cordes. Thanks, Nancy. Former CIA Director David Petraeus was questioned by Congress today about the September attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Petraeus appeared behind closed doors at the Capitol. He spoke with members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees in a secure underground hearing room. David Martin reports.
David Petraeus sped away from the Capitol in his limo, leaving members of Congress to describe the former CIA director's closed-door testimony. According to Republican Senator Saxby Chambliss, Petraeus never had any doubt about what to call the attack on the American consulate in Benghazi.
There was no question in the mind of anybody that this was an act of terrorism from the get-go.
By the morning after, the CIA knew that some of the attackers who killed 4 Americans were members of extremist groups. Yet President Obama refrained from calling it a terrorist attack when he spoke with Steve Kroft of 60 Minutes that afternoon.
Do you believe that this was a terrorist attack?
Well, it's too early to know exactly how this came about, what group was involved, but obviously it was an attack on Americans.
From intercepts of cell phone calls and text messages during the attack, the CIA knew some of the attackers belonged to al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, the North African affiliate of al-Qaeda. But Petraeus testified any mention of al-Qaeda was edited out of unclassified talking points prepared for UN Ambassador Susan Rice when she appeared on Face the Nation 5 days after the attack. According to Republican Congressman Peter King, exactly how that happened is a mystery.
No one knows yet exactly who came up with the final version of the talking points, other than to say the original talking points prepared by the CIA were different from the ones that were finally put out.
That final version of the talking points said there are indications that extremists participated in the assault. A bland description of what intelligence judged to be a terrorist attack involving extremists with links to al-Qaeda. Tonight, the White House issued a statement denying it played any role in editing out those two loaded terms, terrorism and al-Qaeda.
David Morgan, thank you, David. An oil rig exploded today in flames in the Gulf of Mexico. 2 workers are missing and 11 were hospitalized. The rig is located off Louisiana, 80 miles from where BP's Deepwater Horizon exploded and collapsed in 2010, unleashing the worst accidental oil spill in history. How bad was today's accident? Manuel Bojorquez is in Grand Isle, Louisiana tonight.
The explosion was set off when workers using a blowtorch cut through a pipe, igniting combustible gas. 26 workers were on the platform.
The fire is out.
Boats from neighboring rigs moved in to get workers away from the fire.
Really appreciate your help today.
This platform was neither pumping nor producing oil. It was actually being brought back online. The heat was intense enough that it melted metal, even that crane up there. 4 of the workers had 2nd and 3rd degree burns. Ed Kubanski is with the Coast Guard.
Our primary concern right now is looking for the 2 people missing, coordinating with the Oil Spill Response Organization to contain the pollution, and then obviously the investigation of the cause of this incident.
The oil platform sits in 56 feet of water. It's owned by Houston-based Black Elk Energy. The company has a stake in more than 150 platforms off Louisiana and Texas. John Hoffman is Black Elk's CEO.
When something like this happens, it tears at everyone's heart, and you know, it's just a horrible day. We're gonna heal together, but first and foremost, we got to take care of those that were involved.
We found no record of safety violations or complaints on this rig. Anthony, the Coast Guard will continue to search for those 2 missing workers throughout the night.
And there's no oil leaking there tonight, Manuel. Thanks very much. There has been another death in the meningitis outbreak. A Missouri man is accused of plotting a copycat attack on a movie theater. And there's a run on Hostess Twinkies when the CBS Evening News continues. The maker of legendary American treats like Twinkies, Ring Dings, and Devil Dogs said today it is going out of business. Hostess Brands ceased operations and began to lay off more than 18,000 workers. So what happened when customers got word? John Blackstone takes a look.
The panic buying was on at Hostess stores in Los Angeles.
Had to get here to get some Twinkies, but they're out of Twinkies.
Chicago saw a run on Ding Dongs and Devil Dogs.
When you have that late night sweet tooth, this satisfies it. This will cure it.
In Northern California, Jeff Yealet was after Snowballs and Wonder Bread.
I grew up eating these, but my kids haven't, so we came up and I said, if they're going out of business, might as well, they got to at least try them.
It's Twinkie the Kid! Wow!
Howdy, partners! Come on to Hostess Twinkie Town.
Hostess products were a lunchbox favorite for decades, but the company ran into trouble as consumers, mostly parents, moved to low-fat and low-carb treats. In 2009, Hostess was taken over by a private equity firm and 2 hedge funds. Greg Rayburn is the Hostess CEO.
The demand is there for the products. The problem is you have to be able to make them at a profit.
This week, the Bakers Union went on strike when Hostess asked for another cut in wages and benefits. Marie McDonald worked at the Seattle bakery for 37 years.
I was a Twinkie straightener for a while.
Twinkie straightener?
Twinkie straightener.
And then I went on pies because nobody wanted to do pies. It was a living, and everything that I have is because I have this job.
The bankrupt company warned workers it would go out of business if the strike didn't end by last night. Why on earth put yourselves out of work, basically?
Between taking away the pension and taking away wages, making us pay more for medical, you really are getting minimum wage by that time.
Hostess workers will lose their jobs, but the company's owners could profit by selling its famous brand names for others to make. Twinkies, which have a reputation of lasting almost forever, may survive even this. John Blackstone, CBS News, Seattle.
We learned today the meningitis outbreak claimed another victim. Tainted steroid shots have now been linked to 33 deaths. More than 450 people have been infected in 19 states. The outbreak began nearly 2 months ago and has been traced back to a specialty pharmacy in Massachusetts. What's a good way to draw a crowd? Put up a help wanted sign. That's just ahead. A Missouri man was charged today with plotting a mass shooting spree at a screening of the new Twilight movie. Police say 20-year-old Blake Lammers was arrested after his mother turned him in. She grew concerned when he bought weapons similar to those used in last July's Colorado theater shooting. Investigators say Lammers had purchased movie tickets, 2 assault rifles, and 400 rounds of ammunition. In Phoenix last night, a woman drove onto an airport tarmac. She crashed her car through a gate and drove onto an active runway. Her young child was in the car with her. No one was hurt. The woman has been charged with drunk driving. Here's an indication that Americans are still desperate for jobs. When American Airlines announced it was hiring new flight attendants, the company received more than 20,000 applications for 1,500 positions. The jobs are available because more than 2,000 veteran flight attendants took a buyout and left the company. The clock finally runs out on a football dynasty, a family dynasty. On the Road with Steve Hartman is next. Finally tonight, for a mom or dad, one of the great joys of life is watching your kid compete on the athletic field. But one couple has taken sports parenting to a whole new level. Steve Hartman met them on the road.
It was cold the night Dassel Cokato High School in Minnesota played its final football game of the year. Cold enough to make your eyes water, which is what I thought was happening to parent Karen Aho. But then I got a closer look and saw she was feeling a lot more than the wind chill.
It's been a great run.
For Karen and her husband Tom, this game marks the end of an era. The end of their reign as 2 of the longest-serving football parents in America.
It's hard.
Over the past quarter century,
It's hard.
they have been to countless games, cheering on countless sons.
How many boys do you have? Do you know? That's the easy question. Well, maybe not for you.
12 boys.
12 boys, okay.
12 boys, 12 football players, spaced out just so that at least one of them has been on every team in Cokato every year since 1989. 24 straight seasons of knee sprains, grass stains, and night games. Mom and Dad have nary missed a single contest, screaming like teenagers, cursing like true Minnesotans.
Oh, sugar.
Cheering on each child like an only child.
Seth, you gotta do it! Come on!
Mom and Dad, it's very obvious they were passionate about their football and their sports and their kids.
Steve is the oldest at 38, Seth the youngest at 18. In between, too many to name. Or for that matter,
what, another one?
Even notice them all.
What's amazing is he wasn't here, we didn't even miss him.
Can you imagine all these guys growing up under one roof?
Mom and Dad leave the house, we were like, hey, let's play football.
When we bought the house, this green carpet was here. They said, it's a natural playing field.
Over the years, Karen says they broke almost her entire collection of ceramic figurines. The kids blame her for setting them on what is clearly a goalpost crossbar. It's not so much an issue anymore. Today, they've all moved on but Seth, and he's a senior.
Is there any part of you that's glad it's over?
No.
Until now, Karen says she's been able to avoid the hardest part of parenting.
I could never say my kids grew up so fast because there's always another one right there.
Yeah.
You know, so, but now I'll probably feel it.
Fortunately, Karen and Tom do have 49 grandkids, so it's a little early to start buying ceramics again. But on this night, at this moment, that was of little consolation.
That's it. That's the ball game.
On this night, at this moment, all the Ahos wanted was just a little more time on the clock. Steve Hartman, on the road in Cokato, Minnesota.
By the way, the Ahos have 3 daughters, too. And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For Scott Pelley, I'm Anthony Mason. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on CBS This Morning, Saturday. Good night.